This is the review of the Galaxy Note 8. As the screen went away. So with the Galaxy Note 9 coming out here on August 9th of this year, I figured I'd go ahead and do a review on its predecessor, the Galaxy Note 8. Galaxy Note 8 is no slouch, let me tell you. So even though the Galaxy Note 9 has got big things coming out for it, it's supposed to have a huge battery, a 4,000 milliamp battery, which is supposed to give it great battery life. Not that this thing has bad battery life, but we'll talk about that. And it's supposed to have other fancy things on here that the Note is known for. The Note 8 is, again, it's no slouch. It is a terrific phone. I think it's probably one of the best phones on the market today, and I believe it will be a great value because they'll be dropping the price on this thing once the Note 9 comes out. So why not do a review on it? In this review, I actually broke this up into two parts: pros and cons, highlights and detriments. So go ahead and take a look at the detriment video as well. That one probably won't take as long because there aren't very many. Again, I think this is a great phone. I honestly think this is one of the best on the market. This will focus on the positives, the highlights, and this will probably be a long video, so buckle up and stay tuned. There's a lot of good things to talk about. Let's start with the phone's appearance. That is definitely a highlight to me anyways. It's a big phone, first of all, but hey, that's one of its big benefits. It's got a 6.3-inch screen in that AMOLED that Samsung is so well known for. Samsung makes the best screens on the markets for mobile phones. Hands down, there's just no competition, I think, at this point. The only reason the iPhone X, its screen look as good, and I think it's close to Samsung in the Note 8, is because Samsung made that screen. And I think this year they may be sharing that duty with LG as well in making the screen for the iPhone, the new model 2018 version of the iPhone X and iPhone X Plus, but that's a whole other story. That's a different video. Anyways, coming back to this phone's appearance. 6.3-inch screen and diagonal. It is absolutely beautiful. If you love saturation, that is what Samsung specializes in. They really know how to make the content of their screens pop. They accentuate color very well. That's just something that they're really good at. And so with anything that you're looking at on the web, especially with video, screen is fantastic. But going on with the rest of the appearance, we'll come back to the screen. Well, I mean, it looks good. It just looks good. Now, I would say perhaps the Galaxy S8 and S9, they might have an aesthetic advantage only because the corners are a little more rounded than the Note 8. However, I'm not going to hold its more squarish or rectangular appearance against it. That is on the Note 8. Comes in, I believe it's 4 different colors. Look it up because I don't remember exactly. But going off the top of my head, I think there is a black, there is a blue color, and there may be a gold color even. And then finally there is this orchid gray. Now they all have fancy names, but I think this one is orchid gray. That's the one that I remember because I have it. It's almost lilac or purple-ish, depending on how you have this thing in the light. So that's kind of neat as well. You see that it also has dual cameras, a standard camera and then a zoom camera. It's got a fingerprint sensor on the back there. Sort of oddly placed. Now that may be a detriment to some, but like anything in life, you get used to it and it works great. It works very quickly. So overall, again, the appearance on here is definitely a highlight. How did I get to this screen? Let's go back to the home screen here. Anyway, the screen is a highlight. Location change. Let's talk about the next highlight. The next highlight on this phone is the camera. Now, I don't have any pictures to actually show you that I've taken on the camera. Just know that it does a fantastic job. Again, think in terms of saturation. Because Samsung has such an emphasis on saturation, all of your pictures and your video going to come out with just beautiful quality. In light, it does an outstanding job. In low light, it does a really good job. I mean, again, you can't expect any phone to be perfect in low light. There's going to be a little bit of grain when it comes to either pictures or when it comes to taking video. But just take my word for it, it does a great job overall. I got a notification of some sort there. It also does a good job of letting you know you have notifications. But any phone does that. Anyway, the camera is a highlight indeed, both in its picture-taking quality, its ability. It's got two lenses, so it's got your standard lens and your zoom lens, and then in its video quality. If you want to learn more about that, there's plenty of great reviewers out there that can tell you all about that in more detail. Just know that the Note 8 is at the top of all phones, all smartphones, when it comes to picture taking, when it comes to video. And if you want to make a comparison to the iPhones at all, it is absolutely on par with the iPhone X, the iPhone 8 Plus, or the iPhone 7 Plus, going back a few generations on the iPhone. And again, what will separate the Samsung model, the Note 8, from the iPhone models, those iPhone models that I just mentioned, would be the emphasis on saturation. So if you love color, you will love the Note 8's picture-taking and video qualities. Here's another highlight. Now, I think this is pretty neat. It has a 6.3-inch screen, and you see here the navigation keys down below. Now, that in itself, I believe, is a highlight. I actually prefer having the navigation keys there than the way Apple does it when it doesn't really have navigation keys unless you're within the specific app. But that's another story, and it's just kind of a minor thing. But that's not what I'm talking about when I'm talking about this particular highlight. You know, there's a navigation screen, or rather the navigation keys down below. I'm going to open up an app here. And what's nice is that the navigation keys are gone. And you have that option, so you can take advantage of the full 6.3-inchness of this gorgeous screen in any application by removing the navigation keys. Well, then you say, how do I go back, or how do I get to the home screen? Well, you just pull up from the bottom in an iPhone X-ish type of gesture. You have a few seconds, and you have your navigation keys, so you can make your selection. Now, if you don't like doing that, and you just want those navigation keys there at all times, the little circle right there, if you double tap on that, it'll then lock in your navigation keys. So it'll be there present on every screen. And if you decide you don't want that and you want to appreciate the full screen for reading or whatever, then you can go ahead, double tap, and it is gone again. So I think that is a highlight. It's giving you the ability and the option to take advantage of the full screen. Another highlight, if you are still using wired headphones, let me shut the screen off here for a moment. It has a headphone jack. How about that? And if you have a decent pair of wired headphones, the sound that comes out of that jack there is good. It's really good, in fact. So that's a highlight if you do have wired headphones, if you haven't moved on to Bluetooth headphones or Bluetooth speakers. While we are down here, let's talk about another highlight, and this is something that I think most Note 8 users probably even forget that they have after a while, unless they really need it. You've got this stylus. Now, I'm not going to go into great detail about the stylus. Again, you can find other reviewers that do that. But I will say this much anyhow, is that you can use it. And I wasn't quick enough, but let's see if I can still do it. Oh, no, I can't. But you can use the stylus, of course, to write out notes. You can use it to write on the screen. If you're doing some sort of screen capture in that sense, you can even use it to write on the lock screen here if you need to get a note down in a pinch. So you also have the options here to change the thickness when you're in the lock screen. Now, when you're within the screen, when you're within the phone, you have it unlocked, you'll also have the option to be able to choose different colors to go along with the thickness. You've got an eraser here as well, so you can take off of what you got going on here. But just to write a Note 8 is great. Pretty lousy writing. But we can save it in the notes. It says the screen off memo is saved in Samsung Notes. I'm going to go ahead and pop this back inside of here for a moment. I'm going to open this up. I'm going to take this out again. And as you can see here, when you take out the pin, you've got all these different options when your screen is unlocked. And if I view the notes, I can take a look at some of the notes I have. And I can also hover over the note in order to see the note in magnified fashion in case the writing is small in there and I want to get an idea to see what exactly that note is. Anyway, the stylus, I believe, is a highlight, because how many phones out there, I think there's maybe one other, maybe two or three, but how many phones out there actually come with a stylus? And so if you need to write something down, you don't have the old-fashioned pen and paper, and you don't want to text it out, which I guess you can do that too, how many phones out there give you that option to be able to write things down? Definitely a highlight. Yet another highlight. This is wireless charging capable because of its glass back. Now, granted, the Samsung has had wireless charging ever since the Galaxy S6 came out, but you know, it is nice to have that extra option. If you do have an access to a Qi charger, QI wireless charger, and you want to just lay it on that charger or lay it on that pad, wherever it may be, wherever, you know, some coffee shops may have wireless pads available, you can lay it down, something like that, then you can do so. You don't have to worry about plugging the phone in. It's a slow charge. I mean, there is a fast wireless charging available. I don't think it's necessarily that fast overall. Still maybe a couple hours at least before the phone charges, especially if you're starting from close to zero. But it is nice to know that you do have an extra option besides using the old-fashioned way through the USB-C port, or just through the port itself is what I'm saying. I'm just specifying that this is USB-C. It's not necessarily a highlight, but it is nice to know that you do have a USB-C port. And while we are talking about charging, the fast charging through that USB Type-C port is wonderful. It's actually fantastic. It's one of the highlights of this phone easily. And one of the reasons why you might want to choose this phone even over any Apple phone, because of its ability to charge a little bit faster. You can get, I think, 30% charge in something like 40 minutes, maybe, if I remember that correctly. You'll want to look those numbers up. I'm going off the top of my head and I'm going from memory. But just know this, if you need to get some charge fast, you can get it fast through the USB Type-C port and the fast charging adapter that the phone comes with. And technically, really any fast adapter, but ideally you're using the one that the phone comes with. So definitely a highlight. Fast charging, wired charging. Another highlight is its phone's constant on screen, or at least you've got the time that's on all the time, the time and date and your percentage. It's also got these neat little stars up here. Now that's a Galaxy thing, so I think that started on the S8 and has carried over to the Note 8. So that's kind of neat. That's just one of the backgrounds that you can choose from. But what I'm really focusing on is the fact that the screen is always on. I think that's what it's called, always on display. That's the official, but constant screen on, whatever, that sounds just as good. You get the idea. You'll also get your notifications. Maybe you noticed that earlier in the video, but you'll have little icons here indicating the type of notification that you've got. Now, this is not necessarily a highlight, this portion of it. If you do have notifications, you can double tap on that notification. The screen will automatically turn on. You'll have to, at that point, then unlock the phone. But once you do unlock the phone, then the phone will transition straight over to whatever that notification is, whatever app that notification pertains to. That part's kind of neat, but overall, the constant screen on or always on display, I call that a highlight. It's not a big battery drainer either, so you're not going to lose much in battery life by keeping it on. You will lose a little bit, but it's nothing, it's negligible, I say. Another highlight. See that right there? That's your SIM tray, and it's also your SD card tray. So you can put expandable memory in this bad boy up to 256 gigabytes, which means you don't have to rely so much on the Googles or all the other clouds of this world that will hold your information. Yeah, the clouds are convenient, but hey, it's kind of nice to have that something hard there in a sense. That is a memory card, so that you can put your storage on that, especially when it comes to having to back things up. If you run into a situation where you have to reset your phone and you don't have another choice, if you already have things backed up on your memory card, you don't have to worry about, did I back this up or did I back that up on whatever cloud that you have. You'll feel secure in knowing that it's on your memory card already, and that's a cool thing. I think it's a highlight. Not as many phones have onboard storage. Of course, Apple doesn't have onboard storage at all. That is expandable memory storage, I should say. Of course, we all know that Apple, for all Apple fans or all the Apple fans out there that might be watching this, you're reliant on the iCloud, and that's fine. The iCloud works well too. But again, I think it's a highlight to be able to have that expandable storage. Up to 256 gigabytes of a memory card can you add to this phone. Alright, I'm pretty sure this video of me playing a video on this phone doesn't do this justice. Let me keep it out of the light there. But the screen is just gorgeous. Just flat out gorgeous. There's nobody better in the mobile phone industry at making screens than Samsung. Period. Plain and simple. That's my opinion, but I almost want to say that my opinion is fact. It's a gorgeous screen. It's up to 1440p. I don't even know if you can see that many P's on the screen, so small, but hey, it's nice to know anyways. Definitely high definition. As you can see here, like the iPhone 10 and like all phones that are in this sort of 2:1 format, you're going to get these black bars on most videos unless you're looking at a video that's already formatted for the phone. You do have the option to be able to stretch out the screen, so that's kind of nice. Just keep in mind that in some videos you're going to see, actually all of the videos you're going to see the top and bottoms cut off. So for something like this, you're not going to notice a difference, but if you're watching video with people in it, for example, or with content written on, below, it's going to get cut off, or content written above is going to get cut off. Still, doesn't take away from the fact that this is the best screen on the market. Perhaps the Note 9 will eclipse it, but even if it does, it's not going to be by much. I don't think, anyway. I'll mention one final highlight, and that is performance. Do not worry about this phone lagging. Do not worry about this phone randomly shutting down. Don't worry about this phone in any way, shape, or form having problems with performance. It just hustles. It just flat out hustles. Let me tell you. I've had this phone for about 8 months now, and I have noticed no slowdown. It has no desire to slow down as far as I'm concerned, or as far as what I've noticed anyways. It's one of the top performers on the market. So it's got plenty of memory loaded inside. It's got the top processor from 2017 anyways, and even though the specs are going to be a little bit greater this year on the Note 9, at least in terms of processing power, from what I've noticed, perhaps you've noticed this too, that it's usually every 2 years or so before you start to really notice serious performance gains in phones, or a certain family of phones like the Note series, for example, or the iPhone series. So Performance is fantastic. You will not be disappointed. And to go along with this, let me just touch on, this is not necessarily a highlight, but it's not a detriment either. The battery life, you'll be able to make it through a full day, I think, with medium use. I think even with heavy use, you'll be able to get from the early morning into the early evening, if not make it through the day still. It does have a low power mode that works very efficiently. It disables a lot of what may be the non-essential resources and give you, still the ability to communicate and help you to make it all the way until your next charge up, say late in the evening. But the battery life is good. And over time, there has been a little bit of diminished battery life. Not much, though, over the 8 months that I've had this phone. Almost 9 months now, actually. Not much of a drop. And I've been going back and forth between this phone and the iPhone 10 over the last 7, 8, 9 months or so. So know that the performance is great, and it's not at a great cost to battery life. Definitely a highlight. Oh, and here's maybe another highlight. Hey, you can make calls with this phone. Who knew? And the call quality is good. I know that's not something that really necessarily gets talked about much, but yeah, it makes calls, and the call quality is very good. That's all the highlights that I want to cover. Oh, wait, no, let me just get one more. This is more of an Android thing. You have a home screen. If you swipe up just about anywhere on the screen, you have an app tray also. App tray, excuse me. That app tray will have all of your applications. That's one thing that Apple does not have. They only have home screens. They don't have an app tray. Now, it is perhaps a bit redundant. If you look at my detriment video, you'll see that there's even added redundancy with the Edge panel. But that said, I think it's a highlight anyhow. It's nice to know you've got options in order to place your apps. Okay, I promise, one more highlight. And this one here is more of an Android thing. It's not necessarily a Note 8 thing now. So, if I go out of YouTube and say there's some music going on, or I guess even a video of some sort, I can go back to the home screen from the video, and as you can see, I've got like a little picture within my main screen, and that picture I can float around and leave anywhere on the screen. So that's really neat. I call that a highlight. Now that's really, again, more of an Android thing. That's Android Oreo that came up with that. Also know that this is both Android Oreo and the Note series, as well as the big Galaxy, but we're not really talking about that. That is the Plus, like the 8 Plus and the 9 Plus. There's split screen. I won't show you that. I don't really use it a lot, but it could be a highlight if you're that much of a multitasker and you need to do a split screen. You can set this up just as easily to have whatever application on top and another one on bottom. So I'm going to call that a highlight. Both the picture and picture, I think that's a neat deal there, as well as its capability to do split screen. Okay, I'm going to wrap this up here. Once again, if you've endured, thank you very much for watching this video. I hope that it is helpful if you're thinking about getting the Note 8. Right now would be a great time, or wait even maybe another couple of weeks. The Note 9 will be unveiled. The price won't be available for the Note 9. It's going to be expensive, so spoiler alert, but then again, all of these high-end phones are. The Note 8 will then come down in price more than likely. That's how these manufacturers do this. So you're going to be able to get a great value, and you're not going to get... You're going to get one of the best phones on the market still if you decide to go ahead and proceed with the Note 8. Pricing right now, I think I've seen it as low as $600 to $650 for an unlocked version, as high as $960 for a carrier version, and that's in 64 gigabytes. There's also 128 gigabytes and 256 gigabytes available. Thank you very much for watching. Once again, this is Keep It Simple Phone Tech. Is that my name? Yes, Keep It Simple Phone Tech. That's right. Thank you.